Welcome everyone here on the Yu-Gi-Oh! Card EU channel for another one of our Ultimate Time Wizard matches from YCS Bologna in 2024. The very popular 2010 Time Wizard format from April in that year. And Leonard and I, we're here to feature a round of that tournament for you. And I'm very excited that we get to capture some of those games.
Yeah, definitely is. I've been wanting to do this for a very long time now, to be honest, to see what these duelists have cooked up in the Ultimate Time Wizard public events of the YCSs, because I think this is the most prestigious tournaments for Time Wizard. And you know, some people might say that these formats are a little bit solved because they're older, but still, it's amazing to see what players are coming up with. So let's go right into the first round where we are going to see Lila, the Lightsworn Sorceress, normal summoned.
What a beautiful looking card in that Ultimate Rare. You can't quite tell whether it's the original Ultimate Rare or whether it's the reprint from Light of Destruction, because that obviously was recently reprinted. But both versions, of course, have in common that they, in the end phase, can send the top 3 cards to the graveyard. That looks rather disappointing, though, there, with not a single card that gets any use in the graveyard there.
Yeah, I mean, Card Trooper is a card that can be shuffled back with Pot of Avarice, so I
Fair,
guess that's
fair.
can also be recycled later on with something. If your Call of the Haunted gets Mystical Space Typhoon, then you can chain that summon back Card Trooper and destroy it and draw. So there are some merits to having the Trooper in the graveyard. This is an interesting style of commentary, Basti, because usually when someone starts, we see a big combo going off, or if they just follow some Lila, they have Brick, but this is not a bad start.
Yeah, the format pace is just completely different from what it is now in 2025. And that kind of a slow start doesn't necessarily indicate that the hand is bad, because it is very, very common that you just have cards that are better for the mid game, for the late game, and therefore you just have those cards in your hand. You're actually happy with them, but you of course have to get through the first turns then to get the power out of those cards later on. And we see a card that does quickly do what it's supposed to do. And we got that Swap Frog and the Treeborn Frog in the graveyard, and now 2 set cards. So far, so good. I also love the Miracle Fusion sleeves of our bottom player. I hope that they're also following through with playing that card in their deck, of course.
I mean, heroes are very, very popular. My favorite deck that I'm running right now is a hero beatdown strategy, where you just normal summon a bunch of heroes, alias, and get some water monsters into play to activate Miracle Fusion and summon Absolute Zero. Heroes have, of course, developed over the years, but nowadays people are splashing the hero, let's call it an engine, into their decks, and this is kind of interesting because they have realized, hey, Miracle Fusion is a very, very powerful, aggressive card that can be utilized in many ways. And now Raigeki Break is activated, discarding Swap Frog. Swap Frog, you have done your job. Dump the Beborn Frog into the graveyard, and now you can be discarded to get rid of the Lila summon Lightsworn Sorceress.
But speaking of doing the job, do you think it would have been better to maybe just try to use the effect of Lila, get additional advantage by also using the spell Trap Destruction effect of it? Or do you agree on just testing the water in the battle phase first?
I agree with that play, because you know, there's, oh, look at this, the Legacy of Yatagaras. If someone sets 2 cards into Lila, when Lila is already established on the field, it's very likely that all of these cards can be chained. And if you activate your Lila to destroy one of those cards, you could have chained Raigeki Break to destroy the face down card that you had, you know? And then, because Lila has 200 defense points, normal summon something and run over it. So I definitely agree by that forcing out the Raigeki Break is the right place. Substitute here, we are flogging full on.
Number 2, the first Substitute already on the first turn, and that's such a good way of immediately getting so many monsters into the graveyard, because in the first turn the Substitute had to tribute itself, but now they can just tribute the other monster, the Treeborn Frog that came back from the graveyard, and now basically they're free to put as many frog monsters as they have from their deck into the graveyard, cycling through their entire deck of frogs, essentially. Look, there it is. Number 2. This one goes to the graveyard as well. And, ooh, while he's cycling through his deck there, I see a couple of very, very interesting cards that he's running there. I think we can expect some cool stuff here.
I have an idea of what we're trying to do. Basti, do you hear this? I think we're trying to lock the door. We're trying to dupe lock our opponent here. basically,
Possibly.
Dupfrog says that only it can be attacked when it's face up on the field, but if you have two of them, your opponent can't attack anything anymore. So I think the idea here is to get rid of all of the frogs in your deck right now, because those are not the cards you want to draw anymore. You have established your Treeborn Frog engine, and now you can just set up a field that is causing your opponents massive problems, and now your deck is full of good top decks.
Look at that, yeah. Double Dupe Frog. And there is not that many ways to deal with that, to be honest, because battle is usually how monsters are getting outed in Ultimate Time Wizard 2010 format. And therefore, we will need some very certain cards now to get rid of that. Cards like probably Brain Control. If you play cards like that, of course, Raigeki Break is a pretty easy answer to it as well, but not like all of the decks do run those cards. So it will be really interesting to see how they can deal with it here.
I mean, there are a few more answers, like Raikou, the Lightsworn Hunter.
Oh, Raikou is a good one.
Shadow Monarch, so
True.
There's a lot of stuff. Bryonic in the extra deck. Black Rose Dragon would be a little bit drastic here. Next,
but we go into the end phase again. Look, they don't have any answers at the moment.
Ooh,
and there's the first plant, though, finally, because you have seen it from the deck title. This is designed to be a plant deck, and the first plant finally has been spotted now on the third turn, sent to the graveyard in the end phase, and is Titanial. Honestly, super iconic card, and I'm really, really, really in love with that card overall. I like it a lot.
Yeah. I gotta say, it's one of my favorite cards ever, because my first basically competitive deck that I ever played was plants a few years before this format even, or like very, very few. And yeah, I just kept drawing this card. I don't know. This is not what you want to do with it, but I just kept drawing it. And there is Kaio, the Shadow Monarch. Was that foreshadowing? We're banishing a face-down monster here. And that is a good idea versus a deck like this, because it's signaling... The graveyard is signaling a Raikou right here. I've got to be honest with you. Not everything says something about plants, but Dandelion is also a target.
Wow, that's so good banishing it. I mean, let's face it, we just talked about our love for Titanial, but Caius, isn't that your favorite card of all time, actually?
Yeah, it is the absolute favorite card of mine of all time. And there is a picture of me hugging my girlfriend, and someone put a Caius the Shadow Monarch face over it. So that's a hilarious thing. But I'm deeply in love with Caius. This card, it's so flexible. Just like tributing one monster is not the hardest thing to do. It can be like actually very, very powerful if you have cards like Brain Control as well. But banishing any card on the field and having the option to deal 1000 burn damage is insane. I think it's the best card in the format by far.
It really is, and just that easy. We dealt with the set Dandelion, and also then additionally to that the Lila, which we attacked over. So right now it looks like the pace is really, really, really going for our bottom player, going for our hero frog player, and it feels like the upper player, the plant player, does not get anything going really, but that is a card that could change the pace here, and we do now see more and more of those plant cards. We do see Miracle Fertilizer being discarded for DDR, and now the Dandelion that was banished actually is nicely in that banished zone, because we can now bring it back with that DDR that was waiting in their hands.
Yep, that's crucial. Now you wish you banished a Raikou there, because this is now going to be a big combo. So it's actually helping the game plan here. Oh, we're tributing the Lone Fire Blossom to summon out another one that makes more sense. Now we're tributing the Dandelion for a second right there. I was a bit shocked about this decision. DDR will also leave the field after this. So
it definitely should. For sure.
Yeah, it's not like Call of Duty Haunted. But we have tokens now, and now the thing is, if you want to use Caius again to remove something, that's not gonna help you too much, because Titanial knows to negate that by tributing just any plant monster on the field, and the tokens count as such.
Yeah, look at that. The bottom player also caught it, DDR to the graveyard, and all of a sudden, out of very little, there's 4 monsters on the side of our plant player, and one of them is the Titanial we were just talking about, another one coming straight from the deck, but such a good card because of that targeting protection effect, because a lot of those cards in the format, and especially in this deck, honestly, we have to attack. Oh no, we have to attack the Dupe Frog, but you can't attack the Dupe Frogs.
Yeah. As soon as he lifted up the Titanial, I was like, what are we trying to accomplish here?
Oh, there's Phoenix Wing Wind Blast.
Yep, that is big, of course. Oh, and that is so much better even than just removing the Dupe Frog, because you're putting it on top of the deck, denying a good top deck that we just talked about earlier. Like, you want to draw into the other cards, into the Monarchs or other cards that you have in your deck. You can play how many engines you want in this, but now, of course, you run over the Dupe Frog adds back the Swap Frog from the hand, because you have no better targets in the deck as well to get rid of the Dupe Frog top deck.
Yeah,
Can you
from
frog
the...
fetch itself? No.
Would you... no, I don't think it can. I don't think it can. But that is, of course, really, really tough to deal with now. And I'm sure that is a turn that was more of the liking of our plan player. Or another legacy of Yatagarasu, though. So our top deck was the Dupe Frog, which we didn't necessarily like, but we do get to look at another card. And now in the standby phase, I think for the third time already, that Treeborn Frog is coming back from the graveyard. Basically being an endless resource for example, Tribute Summoning, and mainly for Tribute Summoning, probably in this deck. But I mean, in the format overall, you could also use it for enemy controllers and all that kind of cards. So the usage of Treeborn Frog in the Time Wizard 2010 format, honestly, is endless, right? You see that in so many different decks, the hero cards in general. And look at that, what we're searching here off of the normal summon Elemental Hero Stratos. I did not expect this card to be searched there.
Malicious Edge can be tribute with only one tribute if your opponent controls monsters. And I think if we have a Miracle Fusion in hand now, we actually have quite the big power play on our hands here. We don't have a tuner or anything like it, but well, now we're messing something up. Discard Dupe Frog, special summon the Swap Frog. I think you can just, because the Titania is still in attack position, you can just Miracle Fusion from the field. This is exactly what we're doing. Banish the Dupe Frog from the graveyard, or some other frogs that you don't want to
There's plenty to choose from, yeah.
Yeah. Crash with absolute 0 and get rid of all the tokens, the Lone Fire Blossom and the Titania, because I think if you leave it there, there's gonna be some problems.
Now the moment I was talking about, Miracle Fusion sleeves, and now the Miracle Fusion also on top of the graveyard there, going hand in hand. And Absolute Zero, probably the card in that format that gets summoned the most off of the Miracle Fusion. And we do realize Leonard Koenig knows his stuff, correctly anticipating what we are going to see here, crashing into the Titania. Wait, we even...
Oh, wait, no, we have water monsters.
Oh, it's bigger! It's actually bigger, true!
I don't know my stuff.
I mean, it works even better though, right? That's even nicer now.
Honestly, if you had this turn planned, I think you could have summoned the Treeborn Frog in attack position as well. to put up the last token.
Don't get too greedy. Don't get too greedy there.
I don't think this is greedy, to be honest, because this is a level 1 monster that your opponent can use for anything later on. So,
fair. Yeah, I do agree. And now the turn goes over, and I think we actually topped that quite neatly there for the plan play, because we were holding that trade in the hand for the entire time, and we finally got to draw the key card of the deck. We got to draw the Amaryllis there.
Imagine
That's
Ash Blossom here. Would have been crazy.
Not in 2010.
I'm still waiting for a player to go into Moon of the Closed Heaven and start a full Fiendsmith combo.
Honestly, back in the day, of course, that was not a thing and people were not doing that. But nowadays, when I'm playing Time Wizard, it happens to me so often that I also myself catch me doing it, asking my opponent for responses on the first turn, on like effects that there basically are no responses to, checking for Ash Blossom and Joy Spring and stuff like that. And then experienced Time Wizard duelists or duelists that played in 2010, they always look at me, be like, bro, what am I supposed to do here? There is no card in the game yet.
There are some hand traps in the format. Very few.
Very few.
Some that prevent burn damage, or a DD Crow, which is to this day a very good hand trap.
It is. It very much is.
Put aside by Bestials nowadays, which would have been insane in 2010.
Oh yeah, true. And look at that. We have to read the Amaryllis. Break it down for our viewers, Leo. What does that Amaryllis do, actually?
So basically, the Amaryllis comes back when it was destroyed, when something was destroyed, every turn, and deals a little bit of damage to our opponent. So this card is incredibly sticky once you have it going in your game, and it's almost like an endless resource.
And the funny thing about this deck is that it was not necessarily popular, I think, in 2010, and it's more so one of those decks that were discovered a little more the years after, when this game, or when this format became very popular as a Time Wizard format, I want to say. Which is pretty fun to see.
Yep, there are some things you can do against the deck, which is a problem that deck is, for example, DD Crow.
Yeah, very much.
Something that can become a little bit annoying. However, there are tools you have against that as well.
Yeah,
but
to give a slight correction, it's not just when it's destroyed, it's just simply every end phase. So there we see Dandelion being banished, and in the end phase, the Amaryllis on the field now. And I think the 800 damage, those are always going to apply when the card leaves the field.
yeah,
So
exactly.
let's see, do they have a way to deal with this? I mean, there already still is the Absolute Zero on the field, which is such a powerhouse overall, right? Isn't it? Just having the chance to always destroy the entire field from the opponent when they have to deal with the Absolute Zero. It's such a secure ground you have, right? It's so amazing. And oh, do we now see the other hero card? No, we see another Chaos. Oh my, your favorite card going strong here in this match.
He's the GOAT. What can I say, Kai?
He is the GOAT for real.
The Cluster Amaryllis doing a good job. I would have liked to see the Malicious Edge as well, just because it deals piercing damage.
True.
So this is also a very good tool that this deck has against plant decks, because usually they summon a lot of fluff tokens. And of course the Amaryllis also has no defense. So you deal a lot of damage. This is something that can finish a game if you're in a life point advantage already. Keep in mind there is Necro Gardener in the graveyard. Oh, there's a Plague Spreader Zombie as well set there. Swapfrog now runs over the token. So we're going to see it. I mean, there's plenty of resources now, right? So we have the Plague Spreader and we have Necro Gardener. And I just now realized that plenty is a strong word for this situation. There's maybe something we can do. Can we find a way to go into Black Rose? And now this is a play that I love. Swapfrog bouncing back the Kaios to enable another normal summon for a frog monster, but you don't have to take it. You can just take back the Kaios and summon it back next turn. It's such a powerful summon effect.
So, what's next now for a plant player? I didn't really expect them to stick around in this game for so long, but the top deck for the trade and discard actually gave them some good use, and now that is another nice pickup. That is Hidden Armory off the top here. Top card to the graveyard. That Raikou, he wanted that in his hand at some point, but now it gets sent to the graveyard instead. One very powerful equip card in this deck would be Mark of the Rose, but there is no sign of that card so far. Or did we at some point maybe send it to the graveyard in the end phase? It doesn't look like it, right? No.
I mean, I think you're playing Mark of the Rose, however, it doesn't really help anything in that situation because the monster gets back to its...
Oh, yeah.
At the end.
Oh, you're right. True.
So we take DDR now. DDR can build up a reasonable defense with Dandelion.
True, but it also has to discard another card from the hand, so we're like really just left with that, and we do not even decide to do that apparently. Look, we just set one card, pass it back over, hoping with the Necro Gardener in our graveyard and the card we have now in our Spell and Trap Zone that we can carry on for another turn possibly. But Treeborn Frog, I have lost the counter, but that must be the 10th time now that Treeborn Frog is coming back from the graveyard in this game already. He just can't stop doing that.
Okay, Basti, we have a little puzzle on our hands now.
Oh, okay. I like puzzles. Go ahead.
Is set there. You have two monsters in attack, and you know that there is a Kaios in the hand. So, do you think this is something like a Torrential Tribute or a Mirror Force? Because, I mean, I think this is just a hopeless situation right here. Because if you discard something to special summon out Dandelion, Kaios is gonna take it apart as well. Now, for our Frog Monarch hero player, this is a very interesting choice as well. Because do you just attack, thinking it's a Torrential Tribute?
Or we do attack.
So we're just attacking here, not investing any resources. And we are activating Necro Gardener, of course. Just talked about that. Forget about it afterwards.
And that was it apparently. So I think Torrential Tribute was actually the first card that was sent to the graveyard on the opening turn with Lila. So that card is in the graveyard. Right. And it is limited in 2010, isn't it? Should be, right?
Yes, then this was, I think, maybe a false decision here to not summon the Chaos to banish the card, because the only reason to not summon the Chaos here is because you're afraid of Torrential Tribute, no?
I agree. Yeah, it was a bit awkward, and now we see 1-for-1 for Battle Feather.
Yes, you can bounce it back to hand with your Swap Frog.
That is actually insane. Yeah, I didn't even consider that. It looks so awkward on the first notice, but then seeing that you can just get yourself another safety ground. We just saw Necro Gardener saving a turn for the plant player, and now Necro Gardener is a backup for our Frog Hero player. The viewers now probably realize, in case you have never played this Time Wizard format, the battle is a really crucial part. The battle phase, denying battle damage, denying attacks, definitely something you have to be very aware of, and therefore both players relying on cards to deal with that. It was just Karma Cut there. Oh my, we could have definitely forced that Karma Cut out earlier, but we probably still had no way to go for game, right?
I mean, Karma Cut needs to discard a monster, no?
Oh, does it? I'm not even sure.
I think that was the biggest downside of the card, because it has the upside of banishing all cards with the same name from the graveyard. So the card needs a downside, kinda. Let me check. No, I'm not saying the truth. It's just discard a card.
Not
We're
saying
picking
the
up our
truth.
card 1-for-1 needs to discard a monster, but
That for
we're
sure.
picking up here. Frog Hero Monarch, a big pile of powerful engines, just has a perfect start and closes out game 1 here very quickly. Absolute Zero being at 3000 attack is crazy, right?
It very much is. And did you ever personally play that Frog Monarch Hero deck? Are you a big fan of that?
I played Frog Monarchs sometime later.
Mm-hmm.
I never played Frog Monarch Hero. I really enjoy playing decks with a bigger sense of defense.
Yeah.
And consistency. So I like myself some trap cards, and I think that you agree with me on that, because we have both made some rather interesting choices going into YCS tournaments with decks that have more trap card than the format maybe asks for.
We have a history of that for sure. I do agree. But yeah, I think the mixture is quite fun, and it does also just make so much sense, right? Because including Miracle Fusion and the couple of hero cards into this deck, where you already naturally have so many water monsters in your graveyard due to the frog cards, it just adds up. It just is a nice natural synergy between the engines, and I think that's another one of those decks actually that wasn't like super popular back in the day, but now so many years after, at this point almost 15 years after the format was actually played in person, people like to play this. And I mean, you gotta realize that format was 15 years ago, but there's still some good documentation about people doing well with certain decks and something. So even though there may have just been one person doing well with one deck, now all of a sudden in 2025, through the internet, everyone can look at it, and then that one person can be influential for the entire format in 2025, which is so funny. And of course, then on top of that, people now can still deck build according to that and can still make some adjustments to decks from 15 years ago. And I really think having Time Wizard formats strive so much at the moment is really beautiful to see from my perspective.
I really love how you said there is still some good documentation, like Yu-Gi-Oh! Is actually from the ancient Egypt times. and people were playing the crazy decks back then already. But yeah, I agree. It's very cool that some people who played a little bit roguish decks and made like a top cut appearance have shaped the future of Yu-Gi-Oh! Kinda. So that is really cool. I do want to go back to the deck of Frog Monarch Hero again, and there's like also some negative aspects of the decks that I want to highlight.
Go ahead.
And that is that you have an insane amount of normal summons that kind of clog together. So if you're having Stratos in hand, but you also have Swap Frog in hand or Substitute, you would rather want to go for that. You want to get that engine going. And after that, you have done your first turn where you have done not too much because you just sent like a 100-100 monster into the graveyard. So next turn, you want to follow it up with something more powerful to not lose too much momentum, like a Monarch or something. So sometimes I think it is going to be difficult to utilize your hero engine, which is quite the big package actually. And that can lose you a lot of tempo. Like this time we saw that Stratos had to be normal summoned, and Miracle Fusion used the Stratos from the field, which is also not ideal. So this is not the most efficient play you can make, and it worked because he was so far ahead. But when that is not the case, I think the deck has the issue of falling behind quickly sometimes. However, it also fixes some problems of the deck, which is playing around some trap cards like pulling the rug.
Oh yeah, that's true. But we do have finished our side-decking process, and we do go into the second game. One thing for the people not super familiar with this format, of course, you just saw, as it was in the first game, but there we didn't really pay too much attention to it, you do get to draw a 6th card already as the starting player of the duel on your opening turn. Therefore, the Plants player that goes first here and starts a lot more explosive than last time around, with already having Titanial on the field, did get to draw a 6th card. And therefore, it's always favorable, basically, to go first, because you get that extra card, and you will always try to go first in this format for sure. I don't think there's any going second decks in 2010 format, is there?
It's a difficult one. Oh, we're starting off with the Space Typhoon.
On such a good card.
The player could have decided to tribute Titania to negate that, and I think with the Mask of Restrict, that's actually a reasonable thing to do. Oh, we have Soul Exchange here, and that is gonna force out a tribute from the Titanial. Maybe. He actually lets it go, and I like that. He has just seen Caius and nothing else. He has just seen Caius and nothing else, and if he tributes it for a Caius, Caius will have to banish itself. Thus,
true.
Forcing him to tribute something else. No. Oh no! I can't believe it.
That's so smart. I didn't even think about it, honestly. I wasn't even aware that works, but we just, with the effect, through the effect of Soul Exchange, tributed our opponent's monster for the effect of Ronin Toad there, right?
That is so cool. And now we're setting up the block again.
That's crazy. And I mean, like the upper player, the Plants player, as we did not expect it, I don't think he saw that coming, to be honest, either. That's so strong. Going for the motions, immediately putting all the frogs back into the graveyard. This deck looks so fun. I mean, we basically are completely set up again. You said this deck can have a little bit of a pace disadvantage. It looks really, really fast to me here, though, to be honest.
I mean, what it does really quickly. Like, set up a dupe block and send Reborn Frogs to the graveyard. If you have the cards for it, you can just do it in one turn easily. There is no problem. But this is not winning you the game alone. So there is a good setup, a good base here, and this buys you some time defensively. However, if there is not a good follow-up in the hand of our Hero Frog Monarch player, then it's going to be hard to close this game out. However, we have discarded the Caius, which is a very strong card, so I think there must be something else coming there.
You would never do that, right? Discarding a Caius? How does he dare to discard Caius the Shadow Monarch?
I think that's actually illegal in many states.
must be.
I mean, 1-for-1 requires a monster, and if you only have Caius in hand, then you gotta discard Caius sometimes.
Fair. There's 2 cards remaining in hand, and I mean, now I see what you mean, and we do have a Charge of the Light Brigade, which is crazy too. We see the DD Crow you were talking about earlier now being in the deck. I think that's 2 side deck cards probably from the Plants player. Both the Mask of Restrict and the DD Crow probably came in from the side deck, and both are really, really good against this deck.
Yeah, Trap might also be, the Dust Shoot might also be something that is sided in, because the card is going second kind of really bad. If your opponent has a start that invests a lot from the hand, which this deck obviously typically does. So this is something to have in your first hand, then it's crazy good, and if you mill it afterwards, you're happy, because 2 cards in hand, and I don't think there's going to be much more cards in hand for our player on the bottom side for the rest of this game.
Interesting. Okay, there's Belilah. For a moment, it looked like he would set a monster, but he does decide to normal Belilah. We go into the end phase, sure. For a couple of times now in this match, we have seen that Lila just simply sitting there on the field, sending 3 cards to the grave in the end phase, and rarely it really hit anything particularly good. Look at that, Lightning Vortex. Okay, we do get the Amaryllis this time around, and we do see Mark of the Rose is in the deck for him as well. Is there another? There is Plants in the graveyard, so this is really good getting the Amaryllis going now.
We're summoning it immediately. That's also very nice. That would be crazy punished by a Caius, though, immediately. Because, I mean, if you have the Lila only on the field, then sure, summon Kaio's banish Lila attack for 2400, no big deal. But summon Kaio's banish Amaryllis attack over Lila feels really bad.
Yeah, and for a second I thought we would have to give up our dupe lock for that, but yeah, guess what? Swap Frog, no, Treeborn Frog is back, so we can keep the two dupe frogs around and still go for that Kaios on the Amaryllis. And that indeed, as you say, looks super, super, super promising and strong. And there is a Kaios with Shadow Monarch again. This might as well be the card of the game here already.
Oh, Basti, I think we might see something even crazier. We can go for the Kaios. That's what it's looking like.
Look, he pulled it out. He pulled it out there. But he decides for the one you were spoilering here. Oh no!
I mean, they're both very powerful tribute summons, but he decides to go for Kaios instead of Vanity's Fiend, which is incredibly powerful at locking down this deck. I think it's hard to say what I would have preferred. After you have seen the Lightning Vortex in the graveyard, you want to avoid... You want to kind of bait it out maybe, because the Vanity's Fiend on the field is more powerful. But
yeah, it's so funny though, honestly. Like, honestly, the Frog Hero player here, he did not have a very good, like, he did not hide his intentions very, very well, because I think his opponent now knows there's two tribute summons in his hand, and therefore one left that is his last card in hand there, because he was really actively pulling out the one card and then pulling out the other card again, and really in the end decided for the Kaios again. And now a well-timed trade in again though for our Plants player. Could that be a turning point?
Two different cards. So it's two different cards. I wouldn't think that it's a Riser, because Riser would mean that you put the Lila most likely on top of the deck, which is a card that really doesn't progress your game state at all. And now DDR discard Dandelion. I think someone wishes for a Vanity's Fiend on the field right here.
But there's maybe an answer to the DDR here. It looks like it. Raigeki break, and we do get rid of the Vanity's Fiend. And
I do like that.
Probably, right? It's too scary getting the plant back. We do get the 2 tokens once again for the Dandelion. But yeah, that Vanity's Fiend, honestly, I've talked to a lot of Time Wizard players, and they all kind of agreed that this card, post-siding, very much is a big factor in the format, right? Post-side decking in Time Wizard 2010 format, you have to be prepared for Vanity's Fiend. And if you don't play answers to Vanity's Fiend like Dimensional Prison, Bottomless Trap Hole, Brain Control, or whatsoever, you kind of have to make sure that in your side deck there are answers to it, because game 2 and 3, you will very often from a decent amount of decks in this format see this card coming in.
Yeah.
Do have Foolish Burial though.
I would have loved to see Vanity's Fiend over the Kaios Tribute Summon, because you know how explosive the plant deck is. You have seen so many cards like DDR, you have seen the Hidden Armory, the spell card that searches for DDR, so you know that there is gonna be issues if your opponent has any one of these cards. Your opponent is playing so many plants, there has to be Debris Dragon somewhere in there. So I think going for Vanity's Fiend is always better there, because Lightning Vortex was milled. How many copies of it is your opponent gonna slide it in? 3? I don't think so. So yeah, I think I would have preferred a Vanity's Fiend.
I like it. And I mean, yeah, that's another one of those cards, right? Lightning Vortex probably came into his deck there with the sole purpose. I mean, on the one hand, it does out the dupe lock, which is, again, on the field, as it also was in game 1. But also, it's a pretty good answer to Vanity's Fiend, which will be there coming in from the side deck very often. So, seems like a good choice to also have Lightning Vortex in your side deck if you're playing 2010 format for sure.
And this is also a very beautiful thing to watch these duelists in bigger tournaments, because when you're playing at your kitchen table with your friends, let's be honest, how often are you going to utilize your Time Wizard side deck?
Yep, I know what you mean.
Not often. If you just want to chill there and have a good time with your friends, you want to play your decks, that is not often going to be super relevant.
True,
but if you're playing competitively, the side deck is a big part of your strategy, and that changes the entire dynamic of your game and of decks, of course. Oh, we're going to get rid of tokens!
Oh, he's hesitating though. He's hesitating. No, they are in attack position. Dupe Frogs in attack position. And the Treeborn Frog though came in defense position. Kind of interesting. I would rather want to have that Treeborn Frog in attack position than one of the Dupe Frogs, to be honest. But now it happens. We attack over the tokens, we get rid of everything, and also the Amaryllis. Is there still plants in the graveyard? Looks like it. We do activate the Amaryllis, and now finally, the first damage that the plant player did to his opponent here through the effect of Amaryllis, putting 800 points of damage to the life points of his opponent. Finally.
We're seeing our player reading over his gods, the Misery of Darkness.
Oh!
That can only activate the effect while you have nothing on the field when you take battle damage. But is that also the case if you take effect damage? Because
yes!
I know, yep, apparently. Because if you take effect damage while having nothing on the field, you can summon gods and then you won't get a token that has attack and defense according to the damage that you took, but it deals the damage back or heals you. One of
but
those.
He drew Lightning Vortex. He drew freaking Lightning Vortex. How is that real? That may be the best card he could have drawn there. I mean, to be fair, it gives him the Dupe Frog recursion. The Treeborn Frog is coming back. But what's this? Oh, Raikou is in there as well, though. Okay, okay. This might be really good.
I really like this because Raikou has it has double the attack points of Dupe Frog, you know? And we don't have to activate the Lightning Vortex when we see no threat on the opposing side. We can get rid of the Dupe Frog. And we can run over the Kaios because we have Miracle Fertilizer in our hands. So this card can get back a plant every single turn. This is not like Call of the Haunted or Premature Burial, where it just gets back one monster, but it can be used every single turn until one of the plant monsters leaves the field. So we get back the Titanial, and Titanial can now just attack over Kaios after Raikou attacked over the Dupe Frog.
This is so good, and that's what I was talking about, maybe not putting the Dupe Frog into attack position, but rather the Treeborn Frog, because now, guess what? The 100 attack points of Dupe Frog were not enough to protect that battle damage there.
Yeah, but if you want to get rid of both tokens, you will have to put one Dupe Frog into the attack position, and that would mean that you just pop the other one with Raikou effect and run over the one that is in attack.
Okay, I agree.
But, I mean, you can still decide to let one token stay on the field. However, we know how explosive this deck is, so maybe one token is one token too much.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Okay, now in the end phase, bringing back the Amaryllis, and even though the card itself is not applying that much damage so far, it's really still very, very tough to have this monster coming back every end phase, then also doing damage every single time. And oh, Junk Synchro now! I don't think we have seen a singular Action-Deck summon this entire match, but it is about time with that Junk Synchron. One of those OG Synchro era cards. I love this card. I love the artwork of the card. I basically love everything about the card. And there it is.
Really, really powerful, because how good is Catastro against this deck? Oh, we're going for a Synchro. 6? I would have loved Catastro. You run over the Titanial, destroy it. Can't really activate its effect because you're not targeting anything. Miracle Fertilizer goes. Now we go to Goyo Guardian. But Amaryllis can only be special summoned with its own effect.
Oh no. Oh. Do we see that happening now? Leo already knows it. Leo is a true expert of the Timemuser 2010 format. Is our featured match player now also going to realize that? Is he going to learn it the hard way in an Ultimate Timemuser tournament here? Oh. Maybe an answer?
Any restrictions? Was there a reason why we can't go into Catastro? Is Junk Synchron doesn't lock you into Warriors, right?
It may be. Can you look it up? Oh, we attack over the Raikou. Look at that.
You can summon it in defense position if you have a Book of Moon. No, you could have just gone into Catastro, and I think I would have preferred that. However, we have just seen, when we're looking at the table, there is 2 Titanials banished. So what realistically is going to be summoned out by the Miracle Fertilizer? That's a solid point as well.
Fair. Also, life points are a decently important factor in 2010 format, and we just brought the life points of the plant player down to 4,700 due to that Raikou, of course, not being very strong in terms of attack points. Fertilizer can still bring back the Dandelion. I don't know. I don't think that's too bad either, honestly, having that card on the field.
And, I mean, you just replaced your Treeborn Frog with a Raikou.
Yeah. Is that so good?
At the same defensive lineup if you just went for the Catastro, and now, I mean, Titania can just crash into the Goyo Guardian. That wouldn't have been the case earlier. So we put everything into attack position. This is gonna be 2,200 damage from the Amaryllis after Dandelion attacked over the Raikou, because Raikou doesn't provide a lot of defense if it is flipped face up already. And now we attack with the Amaryllis, and crash. Did I misread Amaryllis?
I'm also confused why the Amaryllis goes into the graveyard there. Oh, okay, it does get its damage in. Maybe Amaryllis gets like destroyed on every battle it has or something?
Yeah, that's definitely what happens. So I have played a lot of this format, but I haven't played a lot versus the Amaryllis deck, I gotta be honest with you guys. So after damage calculation, it just destroys itself.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm still unsure why we didn't attack with the Dandelion. Maybe we didn't want to play into Gourds. Oh yeah, we saw the Gourds already.
We saw the Gourds, we saw the Gourds. We know it's there, attacking with the Dandelion. Wait. The Dandelion is also gone now? What's happening?
Yeah.
We are confused, players are confused. What's going on here? Oh, Miracle Fertilizer. Wait. How about Miracle Fertilizer? We gotta double check on our fertilizer there. Does it also just destroy like all plant monsters you have when it leaves the field? Is there some kind of drawback with that?
I don't think so.
Gojo Guardian is also being read one more time. Please note, Gojo Guardian, of course, with the card text it had back in 2010 and not the errata version. Okay, so Dandelion is still on the field, and Dandelion does go for some direct damage, dropping the life points down to 5,600.
Yep, and we get a Gourds in here with a 300 token, which is of course not too impressive, but we're getting into a very, very dangerous range of damage. Because if you look at the life points, which should be 4,700 for our plant player, if you take 2,400 more damage and an evil hero, Malicious Edge, comes around to get rid of tokens, you've already lost the game. So I think we might see some Lightning Vortex here.
Oh, he's considering it. Yup, Lightning Vortex main phase. So giving up a Brain Control for it, that's a tough card to give up for it, honestly. Because on the other hand, the other way around, 5,600 life points for the Frog Hero player are also not that much. So I think Brain Control could have been used aggressively here. Maybe not in this turn, but on the follow-up turn, on the next turn then. But he did decide just to get rid of everything. And Amaryllis also coming back. Okay, another defensive card we have. We now put the Frog Hero player on better draw a Tribute Monster, better draw a Chaos, better draw a good card here. And I think he just drew another Junk Synchron. Oh.
If you're gonna Lightning Vortex the 300 attack and defense token anyways, you could have just attacked with the Dandelion over Raikou and dealt a lot more damage with the Amaryllis via direct damage. But now are we going to see a Brionac now that could potentially get rid of the Amaryllis for a long time?
That's true. Until they draw trade in. Oh, we go for a Synchro 6 right away again. Is there even Synchro 5s in his extra deck? There must be, right? And Brionac, yup. That would also mean, though, that we have to give up our last card in hand for it. That is a Swap Frog. Do we want to get rid of that? We do! Amaryllis back into the hand.
Yeah, it's so good. And you know what I've seen? There's also the Flameville Euroquizas in the extra deck, a level 6 that deals piercing damage, so that Brain Control was... that Brain Control discard for Lightning Vortex was incredibly important, because otherwise this would have just been a lot more damage as well.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I mean, we're still gonna deal 2,000 here, put our opponent down to 2,700 with an Amaryllis in hand.
Yep, I love those game states, and they do occur very, very regularly, where both players are down to very, very little resources. And it comes down sometimes to the heart of the card moment, and we just did you saw what the heart of the card brought our plant player there? There is no way.
That is going to be an interesting choice now here, because if you can discard a card to bounce the return to get rid of a token, I don't think it's a sensible play.
Return from a different dimension. That may mean the return into this match as well, but what did... Now on the other side, our Frog Hero player draw. He drew a Tribute Monster. There's no way. Is it...
Malicious Edge!
There's no way! There is no way!
Off. Malicious Edge is 100 off. I can't believe this.
Malicious... Like, both players kind of drew, like, the craziest card imaginable there for turn. Okay. Piercing damage. We're just explaining it to our opponent. That's what it is. Let's go. That's so funny. 100.
50 for a return. Next turn is gonna be crazy. We have a player who thinks that he has the game under his control, and we see one of the most powerful trap cards in the game just casually flipped up. Pay 50 life points. Let's go, but we get back everything. This is 2 Titanial and 2 Lone Fire Blossoms. I think because the field is so big, we can't close out the game immediately. and we can't do anything with it, right? Because we have the next Titania in the graveyard as well. So there's nothing you can really summon out. Maybe there is another Dandelion in defense position.
This is so crazy. What a match we immediately get to witness. And this is only game 2. Now possibly also with that door wide open for a potential third game with this comeback card there. We do go into the battle phase. Okay. That's probably good news for our Frog Hero player because he was possibly expecting even worse there, to be honest. But it does
has to
get
be another
saved.
card in deck because otherwise Treeborn Frog comes just back in attack position and wins the game.
Wait. True, you're right, because all those monsters do leave the field again, right?
Yeah. So I think there should be something. Oh wow, we're banishing everything.
No.
This is insane. Treeborn Frog for possible game here.
Wait, is there Amaryllis somehow? No, there's no Amaryllis still.
No,
But
the
we have a
Amaryllis
set
is in
card.
hand.
True, it
Oh,
is.
goodness.
Treeborn
Goodness,
Frog
the Treeborn
in
Frog.
attack position.
It's so angry. We have to use our trap card on a Treeborn Frog. This is
Mirror Force
crazy.
on Treeborn Frog. There is no way. Set a
It's
card,
set
pass
up.
it over.
This denies his own Treeborn Frog. This might be Legacy of Yatagarasu. Very
Probably,
strong
yeah.
signal for that. Mask of Restrict is being set here, so this is no answer to anything. Do we activate the Yatagarasu in the draw phase? Have we just... Oh yeah, there it is. There it is. We can use it in the draw phase.
Oh.
Treeborn Frog comes back. This is the most hilarious game shot I've ever seen in my life.
And we do want to go into the battle phase. Attacking with the Treeborn Frog for a game. That is something you don't see every day, but you do see it here in Ultimate Time Wizard 2010 with that match brought to you from YCS Bologna in 2024. Leo, that was a fantastic match to enjoy together. I hope all the viewers enjoyed this as well. And we are going to be back for another one of those matches very, very, very soon.